Hey everybody, welcome to another video for Living Earth Farms. Today we're going to talk about sprouts. Sprouts are, so I've got some here in case you are not familiar with sprouts. You can buy them in the store. These are alfalfa sprouts. They have a lot more than alfalfa sprouts that you can buy. This is what they look like. They're little tiny baby plants essentially. Bought these a little while ago, just making sure they're still fresh. So I bought these from the store. I do love to grow my own sprouts at home when I can. They're really easy to grow. So for me to buy this at the store, it costs at least $3. And this is for organic alfalfa sprouts. I can usually get through this pack by myself in a week or less, sometimes 5 days, and this is gone. If you are feeding a larger family, you'll need more than one pack, depending on what you're putting them in. So before I keep going down the rabbit hole of what equipment you need to grow your own sprouts and how easy it is, let me talk through how you eat sprouts and why you would even eat sprouts anyway. So sprouts, what I like to do with them, I love if I am making a wrap at home or some kind of salad, I use sprouts as a topping. And sprouts, they all have different flavors. So alfalfa is going to taste different than a radish sprout. Radish sprouts are a little spicy, which is going to taste different than a mung bean sprout, which you typically find in Thai cooking, on a pad Thai of some sort maybe, which is also going to taste different than a broccoli sprout. They all have a slightly different flavor. So not only are the flavors different, but they also, if you love to make your plates look a certain way, they all are different colors as well. And on top of that, they are filled with amazing nutrients too. So those nutrients, I'm not going to read off the full exclusive list, but in this little thing of alfalfa sprouts, we're talking protein. I've got a little list pulled up here. Protein, calcium, fiber, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, you name it, they're in here with this little thing of sprouts. And you don't have to put a lot. You don't have to take half the container to get a bunch of health benefits from sprouts. You can just grab a little handful and sprinkle it on whatever it is you're eating. Not only can you put this on a salad or a wrap, but you can put this on some kind of burger that you might be eating, or really in anything that you want. You can add sprouts. Sprouts are different than microgreens. So sprouts, these are the smallest version of a vegetable plant that you can eat. So just for reference here, that's not a good sprout to show you guys. This is a sprout, and it is less than the size of my pinky, and I have relatively small pinkies compared to all my other fingers, so very small. Microgreens are bigger. Microgreens are usually grown in dirt, and the microgreens, their leaves are much bigger than what the little sprouts are. So I prefer growing sprouts. That's the little leaves on these sprouts. I prefer growing sprouts and eating sprouts. Number one, cost benefits. I think there's more, especially doing it at home. I find it's more cost effective for me to grow sprouts than it is to grow microgreens because I don't need any dirt. And I can have a full jar of microgreens, sprouts, depending on how warm my house is. Within 5 to 7 days, I can have this size of a container of sprouts grown at home, freshly grown. I don't love buying them from the store. The only reason I buy from the store still is if I did not plan ahead. So I sometimes will go through phases where I like to eat basically the same thing for sometimes months, where my go-to will be smoothies in the morning, a wrap for lunch, and then mix up my dinners. And the wraps for lunch, I always like to put sprouts on there. So literally I will do wraps. Last summer with my garden, I had so much beautiful collards and kale, and so it was just a wrap of raw vegetables essentially. I would put everything in there, bell pepper, carrots, anything I had in my fridge, any type of fermented beets or sauerkraut would go in my wrap, and I would always put fresh sprouts on top. So I constantly had sprouts all summer long growing on my countertop or ready to go in my fridge. but now I don't have access to as many fresh greens at my house anyway at the moment, so I've kind of let go of the fresh sprouts through the winter. So we're going to kick them back up again as I'm eating more. Obviously I had to buy some, so we will get them going again, and I figured this was a great way to show you guys what sprouts look like, get it set up for myself, so I'll have some amazing fresh sprouts for next week. So kind of talked through how you eat sprouts, some of the health benefits of sprouts. Difference between sprouts and microgreens is just the stage of growth. So if you think about broccoli, so I've got little broccoli seeds here. A seed of broccoli is really tiny. It's not going to show up much on my camera. It's so small. Little tiny broccoli seed. That tiny broccoli seed can turn into a sprout, which can turn into, if you let it grow in dirt, this little sprout would turn into a microgreen. If you let the microgreen keep growing in dirt, it would eventually grow into a broccoli plant and grow your broccoli head. So really the biggest difference between microgreens and sprouts, besides the fact that sprouts are not grown in dirt and microgreens are, is the stage of growth that they're in. So your microgreens will take 7 to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks sometimes, to grow to the right size to be considered a microgreen, compared to a sprout where I mentioned 5 to 7 days. Doesn't take very long. I love too that the microgreens should also be kept somewhere where they get a lot of light, whether that is a window or grow lights, whatever that might be. Compared to the sprouts, they don't need as much direct sunlight to look nice. Now I will say, when I grow sprouts at home, they look better than this, a little more appetizing. I will say, when I have to buy them from the store and I take the lid off, it smells better when you grow it at home than when you buy it in a packet. Now I will say, if you've never ever tried a sprout before, alfalfa sprout, clover sprout, those are two types of sprouts that are more cost effective and the flavor's a little more bland. I find radish sprouts, they're great, but I don't want to eat radish sprouts 24/7. Not my most favorite. They kind of overpower some things depending on how many radish sprouts you put on there. So if you've never had sprouts before, I would recommend go to the store, buy yourself a packet of sprouts, but don't just buy it. I would buy it to intentionally use it. Because honestly, if this is intimidating to you and you do not have a plan with what you're going to eat this in, it's probably just going to sit in your fridge and go bad, to be honest. But if you say, I am making this amazing salad this week and I'm going to throw a pinch of sprouts on every salad I eat, that's a good way to use this up and get accustomed to them. See if you like them before you buy any gear that you may want or need to actually grow your own sprouts at home. Because to buy the gear's not expensive, but compared to $3 or $4 for a container versus maybe 15 or 20 bucks in equipment off Amazon, go the $3 or $4 route, try a few things, make sure you like them, then invest in what you need to grow it at your house. So there are a few different ways to grow sprouts. Hopefully now you're excited that you can grow these little baby plants and eat them and provide food for your family on your countertop. You don't need a lot of space for this. You don't need a whole closet set up. You don't need a special rack. You don't need any of that to grow sprouts at your house. So when I first started growing my own sprouts, what I did is I took a quart jar. I do like these pretty blue ones. I think I maybe have 2 or 3 pretty blue ones, so I like to try to make these my extra special sprout jars just because I like looking at them on my counter. So always wide mouth, and off Amazon you can buy this lid. It's a mesh screen lid here. You can buy it in a 4-pack mesh screen lid. I think it came with the band as well, and these awesome stands. So I will show you what this looks like when it's all set up and how you actually make this work. The first step for any sprout you want to grow, whether that's alfalfa, radish, mung bean, broccoli, whatever it might be, is you'll take your awesome mason jar. Maybe you have some ready at the house. If not, you can pick maybe a 6-pack or less of quart wide mouth mason jars, pretty cheap. From here, you'll read kind of mixed reviews as to how many tablespoons or teaspoons of seeds do you put in this mason jar. I've experimented over time, so everything that I read in the beginning said to take 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of seed. Now I will say 2 tablespoons of broccoli, radish, alfalfa. They're all similar size, but 2 tablespoons of seed, put them in here, then you put the lid on. I found that as they started to sprout, there were still a lot of seeds left that didn't get around to sprouting. So what I slowly started to do was decrease the amount of seeds by a teaspoon at a time. So the ratio that I really like to do is actually 4 teaspoons in here. I will say, 2 tablespoons is 6 teaspoons. So I really didn't cut the seed amount down by much, but I did cut it down to 4 teaspoons. That's the amount that I like to see in my mason jar. So I'm gonna pause this. The one thing I did not bring in here was some water to get this going to show you guys, and a teaspoon as well. So hold on one second. Okay, so I figured I would not waste your time while you watch me like teaspoon out a bunch of seeds into my mason jar. But you can see that's about 4 teaspoons of seed. It's enough to definitely cover the bottom, but it's really not a thick layer of seed. So when you're starting it nice and fresh like this, there was another one on my desk. So when you start it like this, the first thing you want to do is soak the seeds in water for about 12 hours. So I'll back up one more time here. From a time commitment perspective, how difficult is this? How hard is it to grow these baby sprouts? How much time do you need? You honestly need less than 2 minutes a day for 5 days, and you're gonna wind up with a bunch of food. Now, granted, I don't think you can feed your family off of sprouts forever and ever by any means. This is not a complete meal, but this is a great way to add all the things I mentioned before. It's a great way to add calcium and protein and vitamins and minerals, enzymes, things like that into what you're already eating. And you can save a lot of cost by not having to spend $3 a week or more buying it in a container like this and then disposing of that container, whether that is in the trash, in the hopefully recycling. I do love recycled things, so I want to point out really quick, this is, if you ever buy whey yogurt, for me, I always look for ways that I can, if I'm going to buy something already made at the store, like a yogurt or applesauce, lime juice, lemon juice, whatever it might be, if it comes in a glass jar and the cost difference is not huge, like I'm not going to spend an extra $3 to get a glass jar, but the whey yogurts really do taste good to me, and sometimes I can catch them on sale. Like I'm vegan, so dairy-free whey yogurts were on sale at Ingles near me. Usually they're like $2.50 a yogurt, so I don't really buy them. But I caught them on sale for $1. That's a great price for really any kind of dairy-free yogurts. So I didn't buy a bunch, but I bought maybe 3 or 4 just to have as a little treat for myself. And on Amazon, they make these amazing reusable silicone lids made specifically for the whey jars. So no, you can't put a ton of stuff in this little jar, but so they do more than the silicone lids. They also do like bamboo cork lids that are nice you can put on here. So completely up to you. If you ever try the whey yogurts and want to keep your glass container to store stuff like seeds in there, absolutely would recommend. That was my pitch for recycling, so I don't have to worry about trying to recycle this container on a weekly basis. I now have something that produces no waste. Love that. So back to how do you grow some sprouts. So you put your seeds in your jar. Then I've got my cup of water here. You don't need this much water. I just didn't want to have not enough water for the video. What you're really doing here is soaking the seeds so they will sprout a little bit faster. So I'm gonna pour a little bit of water in here and then show you guys about how much water I put in here. So really you want enough water to cover the seeds. You don't really, I'm gonna give my cats that water. They love drinking out of my jars, my glasses. So really you just want enough water to make sure all the seeds are submerged in water. From here, to make sure it doesn't get knocked over by myself or a cat, I will screw the lid on. And from here, this jar will sit I don't want to put it in the way, but it will sit on my counter. Just like that until tomorrow morning. Whenever I wake up in the morning, the 12 hours does not have to be exact, where you have to set an alarm and remember. No. As long as you are touching it once or twice a day, you're good. So when I wake up in the morning, what I'll wind up doing, this is why they make this with mesh. Number one, air gets in there, can breathe a lot better, but it is so simple to take care of these sprouts. So in the morning, when I wake up, what I'm gonna do, go to my sink with this jar, dump all the water out. And all the seeds are still gonna be in here because the mesh is fine enough, the seeds aren't gonna fall out. From there, what I'll do, put a little bit of fresh water in, kind of swirl it around, dump the water out again. From there, that's where this stand comes in handy. So I did not bring in an extra jar, but I can use this jar of alfalfa seeds to kind of show you. So it will sit on your counter. You can adjust this so it sits at whatever angle works the best for you. Sits on your counter like this. From here, once I dumped the water out, I take the jar just like this on my counter. What this is doing is this is helping to remove any excess water, because you don't want it to sit in water like this because you will grow mold, it won't sprout, it will not be good. The goal is to keep them damp enough with enough water to get them to turn into little baby sprouts without growing anything additional you don't want in there. What I would recommend, no matter how good you are at dumping this out in the sink, it's still gonna drip water by design. That's how this system is designed, for it to continue to drain any extra water in here. I always have a towel underneath this setup just to make sure, and if you wanna change that towel out every time you touch the sprouts, you wanna change the towel out every day or two, completely up to you and what you like to do. But I always have a towel underneath this to catch anything that may come out. From there, how often do you touch your sprouts? I will touch my sprouts twice a day, about every 12 hours. So the way I like to do it in my head is I feed my animals every 12 hours. I feed them in the morning, breakfast, and then at dinner, I feed them dinner time. At dinner time, I feed them dinner. So to me, I have in my brain to keep, so habit stacking is a really cool trick, really great trick. It's easier to remember to do something if you attach it to another habit you already have formed. So whether that's tying meditation to your bedtime, tying meditation to when you brush your teeth, whatever that might be, the more habits you can stack together, the easier it's going to be to do those habits. So for me, I always know I'm in my kitchen feeding my animals about 12 hours apart. So it's easy enough for me to keep this somewhere in my kitchen near my animals' food to remind me, oh, go touch the sprouts. And every morning and every evening, what does that look like? My jar is sitting there like this. What I do, grab the jar, take it to the sink, rinse some water in there, dump the water out in the sink, and then put it back. That's it. That's all I have to do. And you'll watch as the days go by, eventually the sprouts will get bigger and bigger and bigger. I have not discovered a perfect science that will tell you exactly what day it's ready to go. I just kind of look at it, smell it, see what they look like. If you are putting your sprouts in an area in your kitchen that's really dark, they may not get very green. They may look kind of pale. I mean, these arguably look a little pale. To make them greener, which will give you more vitamins, nutrients, things like that, you can just put this jar like this on a table near a window, on a windowsill, whatever works for you, but you don't have to. The sprouts will still give you a lot of really good nutrients without direct sunlight. So completely up to you, your personal preference with where you want this to be located. If you love this system and setup, so I will also say, the first time I did this system, I loved it so much and I was so excited. As I mentioned, Amazon shipped me this in a 4-pack with 4 of these, And I said, that's it. I'm going to do all 4. The first go, not let me experiment just with one jar. It was let me experiment with all the jars, because I had bought the seeds. So I had mung bean, broccoli, radish, and alfalfa all going at the same time. And they were all done at the same time. And I had way too many sprouts to eat. So yes, please get excited, grow all the sprouts. But sprouts, do not keep so I can keep a container like this of homegrown or store-bought sprouts for about a week, maybe 10 days, depending on the sprouts. But they don't freeze well, they don't can, so it is possible to overdo it on the amount of sprouts you grow, so just be mindful of that as well. And be mindful of the planning ahead. If you know you're gonna make a Thai dish and you want mung bean sprouts, think ahead maybe the week before and say, ooh, let me get a batch of mung bean sprouts going for that recipe that I know I want to make next week. That's another tip that I've got as well. And I'm trying to think through. So I got very excited about this system, very cost effective. And for Christmas, I asked for an even bigger system that I love just as much. And I've got it sitting right here. Stainless steel sprout containers. So what does this look like? Comes with a lid for the top. Don't have a lot of desk space to be having all this stuff out here. It comes with 2 trays, that mesh tray that you can run water through, but the seeds stay in place. And then the bottom piece of this is just basically a container that'll catch all the water. So it's essentially the same system as a mason jar, where I would take 4 teaspoons or up to 2 tablespoons of seeds in here. From there, put this mesh guy on top of the reservoir to catch the water. So actually, let me back up again. If I'm starting from scratch for real, I would take my seeds in the bottom one, let them soak for 12 hours. Once the 12 hours are done, I would dump the seeds into the mesh container, run some water over them, then put it on top of here. And in the beginning, while they are soaking and while they haven't sprouted yet, I keep the lid on here to keep my cats from putting the little like murder mittens in my sprouts. So I will keep the lid on it. But as the sprouts start to sprout, I go ahead and take the lid off so they get some of that sunlight so they can green up for me. What I love about this system though too, I can have like sprouts in multiple stages happening at the same time in the same stack. I have not done it yet, but I like the opportunity to do that. So love that stainless steel setup. That stainless steel setup costs about 45 bucks compared to the lids that are between 15 and 20, and you get 4 of them. You could, if you really love some sprouts, you could put this lid on a half-gallon mason jar. You could also put this lid on a wide mouth pint jar if you want less sprouts. So for me, it was nice to have that flexibility to do what I wanted with this. I found quart jars, me being one person, they're about the same size. So it produces about the same amount of sprouts as what I would buy at the store. And I know I can get through this in a week. Just trying to make sure I didn't have anything else about sprouts for you guys. I feel like this was a pretty, oh no, some of my seeds are not. Okay, we'll fix that. I'm shaking it around too much now. Gotta let them relax. I feel like I have covered a lot of different things for sprouts, different uses, different ways to grow them, different types of sprouts, some of the health benefits as well. So yeah, I think that's all I've got as far as sprouts go. But if you have any questions about growing sprouts, I would love to answer those questions. Maybe you have other ideas for ways that you grow sprouts or eat or cook with sprouts. I would love to hear that as well. And that is it. Hope you enjoyed this YouTube video on growing all things sprouts.